Hello everyone, and thank you for finding me in the YouTube haystack. This is my review channel, and this is my very first review. Now, when I was researching what it meant to have a YouTube channel, the general consensus was that your first video was actually going to be your worst. So even if you don't like this one, great news, it gets a lot better. So today we're going to review Disney's Bad Batch, episode 1 and 2. And before we begin, just a little history on Star Wars from my perspective. Star Wars was probably the first movie that really got me to love movies. I got to watch it with my dad, and it did come out a little bit before I was born. And Return of the Jedi actually came out when I was about 3 years old. I do remember all the promotion and all the hype, and it was probably my favorite one when it first came out because it had those awesome Ewoks. Now, the animated shows, it has taken me a little longer to get into. I wasn't into the Clone Wars or Rebels at first, and then a few years after both those shows finished, I really started watching them and getting into them and realized, if you're not watching animated Star Wars content, are you a Star Wars fan? We first met the Bad Batch during the final season of the Clone Wars out on Disney Plus last year. It was rumored right off the bat that they were going to get their own show, and when I watched, I wasn't quite sold in the characters. This was Disney's version of the Dirty Dozen, or kind of a Suicide Squad, good guys. You know, those characters that are real tough and we're not going to follow the rules. But I gave it a chance because it's Star Wars, and so far, most of the animated shows have been really enjoyable with the exception of Star Wars Resistance. I really loved how the last season of Clone Wars, the last few episodes, really mirrored the timeline of Revenge of the Sith. So when Bad Batch started off with the infamous Order 66, I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to be a good show. And it didn't disappoint. Right off the bat, we got to see more Jedi get killed by clone troopers. And we get to meet good old Jedi Caleb. I was thinking his last name would be something cool like Ground Runner, but it was actually Caleb Doom when I did a quick Google search. And from there, I kind of noticed his animation made him look a tad like Pinocchio. But that's one of the few complaints I actually have of the show. So in the first 2 episodes, it seems clear that the show wants to answer the question, what happened to the clone troopers? When we start our Star Wars adventure on episode 4, George Lucas skipped ahead a little bit, and we had stormtroopers, but not clone troopers. The helmets are a little bit different, and that's all we really know at this point. Now, the Bad Batch, they weren't part of the Order 66, and they're trying to figure out who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. Why do we got to get these citizens? Aren't we supposed to be fighting droids? The Bad Batch go back to Kamino to kind of regroup and figure out what's going on. And here we meet their new little friend. Her name is Amino. And she kind of follows along the tradition of Star Wars of kind of jettisoning kids from their family and friends. We started out with Anakin leaving his mom. Happy Mother's Day. And Luke and Leia, they got a deadbeat dad. So they had to go live with someone else. And then if fast forward a little bit, old Rey Palpatine couldn't stay with her parents either because she had a bad grandpa. And then if we go a little further, there's the kid that was using the Force to sweep up the stalls. We don't even know what happened to him. He's somewhere though. So anyways, back to the little girl. She is also a clone who is marked from Admiral Tarkin as on the watch list. So consider me hooked because I'd like to know what happened. In the second episode, there's a Rex reference. And he was a big character in the Clone Wars. And I'm curious to see if he will show up. I really enjoyed the show. I'm going to go ahead and give it the old Gambit paw of approval. And I think if you are into Star Wars, you're going to really enjoy this. I will say in the second episode, the action does slow down a bit, and they do tend to focus a little more on figuring out the next steps. I mean, they can't be in battles all the time because they'll get really tired. I mean, wouldn't anybody? So I would recommend this if you're a Star Wars fan. Other things I really liked about it are it has the classic Star Wars feel to it. And I think Star Wars always excels at making awesome characters. And each character of the Bad Batch has their own part to play to form a really cohesive team. I'm going to give episode 1 an A, episode 2 a B+. If this is something that helped you out or you really liked, consider giving me a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and notifications. If you watch my videos, you're going to find something entertaining.